This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thank you so much for joining us for this first edition of CBN NewsWatch for Monday, July 15th. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency begins rounding up illegal immigrants as part of the president's plan to take on the immigration crisis. President Trump faces a backlash after his tweets against 4 left-wing freshman congressional Democrats. But the Democrats themselves are also feuding among themselves. It is the fastest growing church in the world in a country you wouldn't expect, Iran. And he's been called the president's favorite ambassador and even little Trump. Our conversation with the ambassador to Germany, Richard Grinnell. Those stories and much more are ahead in this edition of CBN NewsWatch. We want to begin this hour with the Trump administration continuing its mission to combat illegal immigration. But Sunday's planned mass deportations fell short of expectations. While some have denounced the removal process, immigration officials contend they're an everyday part of immigration and custom enforcement operations.
Over 1 million people in this country who are here illegally have gone through extensive due process, have removal orders, and have not left. It shows how far we've fallen that it's even news that ICE is doing its job.
CBN News Washington correspondent Amber Strong is joining us now. She's following this story for us from Washington. So, Amber, what was the plan for Sunday?
Hi, good morning, Ephraim. Yeah, so the plan, according to the president and immigration officials, is that about 2,000 people from 9 cities across the country were to be deported started Sunday. Now, these were people who had not recently come to the country, and they were people who were facing final deportation, meaning they had been before a judge and had been through the entire due process system. So exactly what happened and why were the numbers lower than expected? We don't know for sure what happened. According to the New York Times, those numbers were low because of advocacy groups, and even the Speaker of the House, who were warning people or letting people know their rights, saying that you don't have to enter the door if ICE comes, because if they don't have a warrant from a judge, then you have rights to deny them entrance to your home. The idea, however, is that these deportation or raids, as some are calling them, will continue throughout the week, and that the numbers will go up as people leave to begin to go back into their work week and into their daily lives.
All right, Amber Strong, thank you so much for following this story for us.
Thanks, Ephraim.
The partisan strife is intensifying in Washington, with the president attacking 4 left-wing freshman Democratic women and those Democrats still involved in a public feud with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Without naming them, the president tweeted they should go back to what he called, quote, the broken and infested, unquote, countries they came from. Although only one of them, Minnesota's Ilhan Omar, was born in another country. Democrats called the president's tweets racist, but he responded with another tweet saying, so sad to see the Democrats sticking up for people who speak so badly of our country and who, in addition, hate Israel with a true and unbridled passion. Whenever confronted, they call their adversaries, including Nancy Pelosi, racist. As the president said, the freshmen have been criticizing the Democratic leadership, and the feud has taken on racial overtones. Sometimes that's frustrating more moderate Democrats. In the aftermath of Tropical Depression Barry, flash flood watches have been in effect not only in much of Louisiana and Mississippi, but also parts of Arkansas, eastern Texas, western Tennessee, and southern Missouri. Mark Martin brings us this look at the impact of Barry on Louisiana.
Even though Tropical Depression Barry did not bring catastrophic flooding to Louisiana, many residents across the Gulf Coast are still advised to pay attention to tornado and flash flood warnings as the storm moves north.
Much of the southern portion of the state is still experiencing heavy rainfall and that could lead to flash flooding. And we're at an elevated risk for tornadic activity.
Officials downgraded Barry to a tropical depression from a tropical storm on Sunday afternoon, but Edwards stressed it is still something to watch closely.
And so we continue to stress what we said yesterday, and that is not to let your guard down and become too complacent too soon. Remain vigilant and pay attention and watch the advisories that come out.
Edwards says he's extremely grateful Barry did not produce the devastating floods that forecasters predicted. New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell also expressed relief.
We absolutely made it through the storm. Beyond lucky, we were spared. It seemed as those bands moved closer to New Orleans, it seemed to just go around us.
The Coast Guard did have to rescue people and pets from flooded areas south of New Orleans. A spokesperson says they rescued some from rooftops. Take a look at this video, which shows the Coast Guard airlifting a 77-year-old man with a dog after officials say his home took on 4 feet of water. This store owner in New Iberia, Louisiana, says Barry flooded his building with more than a foot of water, ruining furniture and computer equipment. Still, Governor Edwards says the main levees on the Mississippi River did not fail and were expected to hold up through the storm. PowerOutage.us reported more than 50,000 customers in Louisiana and more than 4,000 customers in Mississippi were without power early Monday. Mark Martin, CBN News.
I want to take a closer look now with AccuWeather's Mark Mancuso. He has a look at what we can expect from Barry now.
Barry continues to spin its way slowly north, now moving out of Louisiana into Arkansas. But on the southern flank of the circulation, we are looking at an explosion of rain and thunderstorms. We have flash flood emergencies here across south central Louisiana, where these thunderstorms have deposited a quick 8 to 12 inches of rain on top of saturated soils. As we take a look at the future path of Barry, it's moving up through Arkansas today and into Missouri. It will continue to weaken, so wind's not the concern, but the moisture is. And we'll see more heavy rains in places that have already seen heavy rain. Looking at the past 24 hours, we saw the heavy rains moving up through Mississippi, 4 to 8 inches of rain. That led to areas of flooding, 2 to 4 inches across parts of southeast Louisiana. And here's that band where we're seeing the intense rainfall, 8 to 12 inches in the flash flood emergency. So soil's already saturated here, and when you get that heavy rain on top of it, we have trouble. Flood watches are out from Louisiana all the way up into Missouri here. Also the flood warnings, places that have seen recent torrential downpours. And there's also the possibility of a few more storms that could spin up into brief tornadoes. There could be some localized wind damage moving up into the Mid-South for today. Look at the future rainfall. Here we see that heavy rain in Louisiana, but as that circulation center from Barry moves northward, we'll see the rain increasing here in the Mid-South. Where you see the yellow, we could be looking at easily 2 to 4 more inches of rain. And with all that rain and these saturated soils, that flood potential is significant here across the lower to the mid-Mississippi Valley through tonight. And then over the next couple of days, the moisture spreads into the Ohio and Tennessee valleys, and the flood potential goes up.
In Washington, Treasury Secretary and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi have been talking about the need to increase the debt ceiling. That is the amount of money the federal government is allowed to borrow. The two have been talking because the federal deficit is going to be much higher this year. It's expected to top $1 trillion, and the government is likely to hit its debt limit quicker than expected. CBN's Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson brings us the story.
Well, many lawmakers think with the U.S. Treasury set to run out of borrowing money by mid-September, just a few legislative days after they return from August recess, they can't wait until the brink to vote to raise the debt ceiling. And some, like Senator Chris Coons, advocate it's time to eliminate the debt ceiling altogether.
For us to default on America's sovereign debt would have significant consequences. One of the reasons that more countries and more investors around the world invest in American Treasury instruments is because we are seen as the most reliable issuer of government debt on earth. And to default on that debt would certainly harm that and increase our costs of borrowing. Folks who think we should continue to have a debt ceiling and be forced to vote on the debt ceiling believe that because they're concerned, as I am, about our deficits and our national debt. We should find responsible and bipartisan mechanisms to put in place reductions in our spending and our deficits. Coming right up against the debt ceiling, playing chicken with our debt ceiling year after year is not the right way to do this.
Neither Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi or Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell have indicated yet whether or not we'll see a vote to address the issue this month or if they'll hold off until September. Reporting from Capitol Hill, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Parents are protesting after photos surfaced of a drag queen story hour at a Portland, Oregon library. It was from an event last year and showed children playing on the floor and lying on top of a man dressed as a woman at the library event. One parent wrote on Facebook, "I wouldn't let my kids crawl on top of random strangers, no matter how strangers are dressed." Drag Queen Story Hour events have been spreading as part of a nationwide LGBTQ agenda to indoctrinate children. CBN News attended one event where a gay man dressed with an Under the Sea theme read to children. He said doing so makes it more fun for the children. Activist mommy Elizabeth Johnson says it is confusing and harmful for the children.
Whatever happened to puppet shows and craft day at the library? Why do we need to bring in kitty porn and tampon and Lucy fur to accommodate the 0.001% of the population?
Now, most libraries have responded to complaints saying they want to be inclusive with their programs. For more on this story and Johnston's response, you can go to cbnnews.com. Coming up, it is considered the fastest growing church in the world. And what country is it in? It's likely to surprise you. It's in Iran, where millions of people have turned away from Shiite Islam to Jesus Christ. We're going to have that story when we come back.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
Administering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to CBNNewsChannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News.
Get the top political news and analysis from Washington on Faith Nation, tonight at 6 Eastern, only on the CBN News Channel.
Check out the CBN News Daily Rundown podcast each weekday with me, Caitlin Burke. Click on the show tab at cbnnews.com where you can listen and subscribe.
Well, it may surprise you, the fastest growing church in the world is in Iran, but that is the assessment of those who have seen and heard the remarkable story of millions turning away from the Iranian regime, Shiite Islam, and turning toward Jesus Christ. We've hidden the identity of the believers in this story, some of whom are Iranian Christians in another country. CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell is bringing us the story.
The image Iran presents to the world is large demonstrations with shouts of death to America and death to Israel. Those who have seen Iran from the inside, however, paint a very different picture.
You can't believe the images on TV because, for example, all the protests that you see in the streets, those are mostly contrived. There are young students in the streets, and they told us, if we don't go to the streets, we won't get our grades, so we're forced to go and protest.
We've hidden the identity of this Iranian church worker. He says there are two Irans, the one you see on the news and the other hidden from the world.
Yes, I would say there's a 10% Iran and a 90% Iran. 10% control the country in a more oppressive manner, hardline, religious manner, and then the majority of the people, 90% of the people, love America. They don't hate Americans. I think that's the message that Americans need to hear. They tell us all the time, we don't hate Americans, we love America.
He wants Americans to know that 40 years after Iran's Islamic Revolution, there's another spiritual revolution underway.
Awaken to the truth that we live in a time that's very special. More people have come to faith in Iran in the last 40 years than the previous 1,400 years. So there's a once, not only in a lifetime, but in history, where we have a moment where Iranians are coming to faith at such a rapid rate.
Frontiers Alliance International is producing a documentary called Sheep Among Wolves to introduce the Iranian church to Christians worldwide.
What's taking place in Iran right now is spectacular. It's the fastest growing church in the world that owns no buildings, has no 501c3s, that owns no property, that has no bank accounts, that has no centralized leadership, that has no denominational leanings, and yet it's multiplying like crazy. What the Lord is doing there is staggering.
And that results in intense persecution that Thomas says leads Iranian believers to seek prayer, but not in a way you may think.
Typically the way we pray is, we expect that they want us to pray for the persecution to end. And they say, no, don't do that. Persecution is growing the church. When the persecution stops, the growth stops. What we want is for the gospel to spread far and wide and deep in Iran.
With Iran and the U.S. on the brink of war, Thomas says it's important to see what's happening behind the Iranian veil.
When Muslims from Iran come in contact with the man from Nazareth, something beautiful happens. And when they realize that they've been bought and saved and purchased with Jewish blood, prophesied by Jewish prophets in the Jewish Bible, something crazy happens, something beautiful happens, and that's what we're seeing take place in Iran.
Thomas believes one day the world may wake up to find Iran's church growth in the 21st century rivaling that of China and Korea in the last century. Chris Mitchell, CBN News.
Still ahead, the Wall Street Journal just called him President Trump's favorite ambassador. We're going to introduce you to the president's ambassador to Germany, Richard Grinnell. And we're going to tell you why some Germans have even called him Little Trump.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Like most media, German reporters are hostile towards President Donald Trump, so it's no surprise the American president is unpopular with the German people. U.S. Ambassador Richard Grenell is caught in the middle of this strained relationship. CBN's Dale Hurd introduces us to the president's man in Germany.
It's no exaggeration to say that the German establishment and media cannot stand Donald Trump. And that means the president's ambassador in Berlin is not going to win any popularity contests. In fact, Richard Grenell may be the most unpopular U.S. ambassador to Germany since the Second World War. But it seems Trump's man in Berlin could not care less. He's here to do a job, and that job is to fix what some call a dysfunctional transatlantic relationship.
Those in Germany who don't like him, and there are a lot of them, call Richard Grenell the little Trump, because he believes in his message, he believes in President Trump, and he gives the Germans the undiplomatic truth.
You've had some rough treatment from the German media. They don't like you.
I would say there's some that do, but it doesn't bother me. I'm really focused on a job, and I recognize that in the short term, in the immediacy, that changing the status quo is always messy, that people get comfortable and they don't want to change the status quo. So I got good perspective. I'm a cancer survivor. And I have to tell you that when you wake up and you've defeated cancer and you're looking at life in a different way on a daily basis, bad media coverage or critical media coverage or complainers from the side, that doesn't bother me.
The hostility to Grenell has reached such a level that a German lawmaker asked the government to declare the American ambassador persona non grata and expel him from the country. But the former regular on Fox News' Red Eye program and advisor to 4 American UN ambassadors has made it clear he's not going to be a traditional quiet ambassador.
Well, first of all, they're always surprised that I'm a Trump supporter, which is quite funny to think that an ambassador wouldn't be. So yes, I think the coverage is inherently an assumption that an ambassador is supposed to give parties and not supposed to defend their country and not supposed to push forward.
On Grenell's hard-charging agenda is to get one of the world's wealthiest nations to stop being so cheap about its military spending. NATO requires its members to spend 2% of their GDP on defense. The Germans are still not even close.
Why is it so difficult for a rich nation like Germany to meet its NATO obligation?
Yeah, it's a great question. And this is really a demand of NATO that if you're going to be a NATO member, you need to have a working military. You need to have helicopters and transport planes and a military that works. So what we've seen in Germany is that they've got a broken military system. And if they're going to be a part of NATO, then they have to abide by the NATO rules.
Grenell really irked the Germans on day one as ambassador when he tweeted out a warning to German companies to not violate U.S. sanctions against Iran.
Companies are free to do business inside Iran. We're not telling them that they can't. What we are saying is if you do business in Iran, you also can't do business in the United States.
In a nation that all but worshipped Barack Obama, most Germans do not like Donald Trump. Only 10% of Germans say they have confidence in President Trump to do the right thing. And that makes Grenell's job even harder.
Would you be willing to admit that the transatlantic relationship has been weakened because of some of the tough talk President Trump has used with the Europeans?
No, I don't think so. I think that the transatlantic relationship has been strengthened by President Trump's talk, his directness, even his tweets, because what's happening is that we're stopping a slide of the status quo.
And if the German-American relationship is in need of an intervention, Richard Grenell seems like the man for the job.
I make no apologies for pushing America. I work for the American taxpayer. I work for the American government, the American people, and for President Trump. I don't work for the Germans. I look at the relationship with the Europeans and specifically the Germans as one in need of reform, and we're doing the messy work of reform.
Dale Hurd, CBN News, Berlin.
Have you ever been on it?
And stay with us. We're coming back with an encouraging word for you. We'll be right back.
Give me that. Bye. Sure, life is busy, but I found a way to make a huge difference in people's lives. I guess you could say I'm changing the world right here from home. I bring medical supplies and doctors to people in need. and dig wells so that villagers can have clean and safe water to drink. I make it possible to preach the gospel in over 100 countries, including right here in America. And when disaster strikes, I'm there, providing food, thank you, and emergency supplies to give people hope again. Every day, CBN and I are making the world a better place. Here you go. My life is hectic, so I joined CBN through Pledge Express. My bank does all the work, and I know that my gift is being used where it's needed most. So become a CBN partner and join Pledge Express, because you can do a world of good right from where you are. Hi, good morning. Are you ready to get started?
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Get Protect Your Sleep and live your best life with innovative information from 5 leading sleep experts.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
Discover a sleep-enhancing bedtime routine, how to put insomnia to rest, learn how to relieve pain that disturbs sleep, and much more in Protect Your Sleep.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Don't miss out on this brand new series.
I am Region's first ROTC graduate student.
Welcome back. Time now for your Monday motivation. I'd like to leave you with this thought, especially if you're praying for something. Thanking God after He does it is gratitude, but thanking God before it happens is faith. Think on that for just a moment. And today is a good day to put that faith to work and begin thanking God in advance of whatever it is you're waiting to receive from Him. With that word, I encourage you to make today a marvelous Monday. That's a wrap for this first edition of CBN NewsWatch. Thank you so much for watching. You can always get more on the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. You can also watch our programs anytime on the CBN News channel. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com, or you can reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. We'll see you right back here, same time tomorrow. Goodbye, everybody, and God bless.